Good evening and welcome to the Town Council's Community Resource Committee meeting. This meeting will be held under the regulations allowing local authorities to meet formally using remote technology. It is being streamed live and is available to view on our website. It is important for everyone participating in this meeting to keep your microphones on mute when you are not speaking to reduce disruption from background noise. Most decisions will have been made by the general assent of those present. However, if a vote is required, each councillor's name will be read out by myself or the Assistant Town Clerk, and you'll be asked to state whether you are for, against, or abstaining. If at any time the Town Council's technology fails and we need to adjourn the meeting for a short period, I will confirm this and ask all those present to turn their cameras off and mute their microphones whilst the problem is rectified. I will then confirm when the meeting resumes. We can only monitor our technology and cannot halt the meeting if a member of the press or public experiences technology issues. I will now ask the Assistant Town Clerk to carry out a roll call of all councillors and ask you to confirm that you are present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Blanchard-Cooper.
I'm present.
Councillor Malloy.
Present.
Councillor Tandy.
Present.
Councillor Turner.
Present.
Councillor Dr. Walsh.
Present.
Councillor Chase joining us ex officio as the Mayor this evening.
Present.
And I also have Councillor Long joining us as a substitute for the evening, Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Long, for substituting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for attending this meeting.
Just to confirm, I am here. Thank you.
I haven't heard present, so I'm not sure.
Who is Jill substituting for?
For Councillor Seeks, I believe.
All right.
That she's unable to attend. Okay, so moving on the agenda. Number 1, microphones. Remember, all are reminded to switch their mobile devices to silent for the duration of the meeting. Apologies. I'll ask the Assistant Town Clerk to read the names of those who have sent their apologies, which I believe we've already done, but over to you, Jules.
Yeah, Councillor Seeks, Chair.
Thank you ever so much. And thank you, Councillor Seeks, for sending those. Declarations of interest. The standing declarations are noted. Members and officers are reminded to make any other declarations if they become apparent at the appropriate time during the meeting. Are there any further declarations? I will kick this off as I have 2. I made note of them. Personal declaration item 3.5 for 7.5. The bonfire request. I'm a member of the Littlehampton Bonfire Society and I cannot remember the item, but I'll bring it up later. Somewhere there is an item relating to the Littlehampton Musical Comedy Society, and I'll declare an interest as the president of the society. Anyone else?
Yes, I've got one.
Councillor Walsh?
It's specifically on item 7.6, the strategic review of Arran District Council's tourism strategy. I'm the leader of Arran District.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Anybody else? No? Okay, thank you. Those are noted. Okay, minutes. If you turn to pages 4 to 10 in your agenda, you will find the minutes from the meeting of the 10th of September 2020. If everyone is happy with the meeting, these will be approved and arrangements made for them to be signed at a later date. These will be reflected in the minutes of this meeting. Is everyone happy with these? I will just add, I believe I need to abstain as I was not present at that last meeting. So thank you. Does anyone have any comments on those? No. Okay, is everyone happy then to?
Yeah,
Yep.
agreed.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Lovely. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Okay, moving on to item 5, Chair's report and urgent items. I'll hand over to the Assistant Town Clerk to confirm if there are any urgent items. Juliet?
Thank you, Chair. There are none.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillor 6, Public Forum. In accordance with the remote meetings protocol which has been introduced by the Town Council, any members of the public wishing to address the Council or any of its committees during meetings should have emailed their submissions to one of us one clear day before the meeting. I'll ask the Assistant Town Clerk to advise if there are any. Juliet?
Thank you, Chair. There is one representation that we've received this meeting, and that's from Mr. Chester, who asks, in considering the events programme for next year, is there any evidence that we will be in a different situation with regard to COVID than we are now? Would it be better to work on an adapted programme of events that can take place with COVID restrictions in place rather than revert back to the normal programme, which attracts large numbers of people into the same space at the same time until we know for certain tangible progress has been made on quickfire testing, treatments and a vaccine? In response, we thank Mr. Chester for his question. The priority has been to make sure that sites, funding and the services of contractors are in place so that the events programme can proceed if conditions permit. If restrictions on public gatherings remain in place, we will look to build on our experience this year delivering events in alternative formats online and using social media in 2021. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Juliet. And thank you, Mr. Chester, for your question. Item 7, Officers' Reports. So if I could ask you to turn to page 11 of your agendas, and I'll ask the Assistant Town Clerk to take us through these reports.
Thank you, Chair. The first substantive item on the agenda is actually a presentation that we are going to receive from Arran Youth Project. And in that respect, we've got Emma Biffy, who's one of the project managers there, online now, and she's going to make a presentation of the annual report, which members have in their agenda from page 11 through to page 36.
Thank you. And thank you and welcome to Emma Biffy for joining us tonight, and thank you. Emma, I believe your microphone's muted.
Emma, are you able to unmute? Okay. Can one of the presenters that has the same screen as what Emma is viewing right now help her? Emily, can you guide Emma through this, please?
Emma, can you see the tab on your screen where there's the little mic icon and camera? Is there a line through the mic?
Just bear with us a second.
Chairman, could I suggest that we start with another item while this is resolved?
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. You must have just read my mind. I was just about to check if that was okay to proceed with.
Yeah, certainly. If I can ask the technical team if it's possible to cut Emma's camera for the time being, and we can move on to agenda item 2, the museum periodic report, and the team can let us know when Emma's ready to come online, Chair.
Thank you for that. So yes, as Jules said, we're on to 7.2 museum periodic report, which is on pages 37 to 48 of your agenda.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, the report starts, as you said, on page 37. Apologies in advance, I think some of our paragraph numbers may have gone astray there, but just to briefly summarise the report that members have before them. First of all, I'd like to highlight that we've had quite a positive response to the gradual reopening of the museum, particularly comments received from visitors saying that they felt safe in the environment when they came to view the museum. The thrust of the report is basically to demonstrate that we are building on that reopening now, and we're going to, as the half-term approaches, increase the availability of slots so that hopefully we can offer times for 3 days a week, and we'll be adjusting those to make sure that we've got the resources to allow not just for social distancing but also for the additional cleaning in between. In terms of the general work and operation of the museum currently, the engagement via the website and social media is improving all the time, and the museum are also keeping their profile in the community by joining in the events programme and offering individual sections to complement the events team there. There's also been an increase in the take-up of the loan education boxes by schools, obviously for similar reasons, new ways of working and teaching. The collections documentation project continues to progress, and we now have additional volunteer force that have just started with us, and as they become fully trained, they will provide an additional resource to assist with the project. At the last meeting, members will recall it was approved that we go for the Arts Fund grant, which that has been submitted, and we've just heard today that the outcome of that bid won't be known until the end of November. And finally, Charlotte has received 2 items which are in the report on pages 42 for you, 42 and 43. With recommendations in terms of accessioning items. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you. So first of all, do we have any questions from anyone? I'll just give you a moment just to put your hand, well, to comment if you do want to ask anything. No, in which case, can I just check that we're, first of all, happy to note the report?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay. Second one is consider the recommendations. Oh, yeah. Sorry, consider the recommendations, acquisitions of items listed in item 5. So just check if anyone's got any questions on that particular item. Or are you happy to know first of all?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So everyone's happy with the recommendation?
Agreed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
agreed.
So otherwise, just note the report. So thank you for that, Jules. So in which case we can move on to. Sorry, are we ready with Emma? Yes, lovely.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Emma.
Yes.
Lovely to hear you and welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll hand over to you.
Okay, I am going to attempt to share my screen and pull the report up. Let's see how that goes. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can.
that's
Well
good,
done.
Emma.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we're good. We are good. Okay, so thank you for having me, first of all. And this is my report on Arran Youth projects. It's an annual report, so it captures the sort of last 12 months, but sometimes I've tried to sort of capture the last sort of 3 years of Arran Youth projects as well, because we're sort of coming up to, well, we've come up to the 3rd year anniversary of AYP, and which is a big milestone because the first lot of funding that we received was for 3 years. So, you know, this is, yeah, it's a review of the year and an overview of the whole project. Yeah, contents page. It's in the format is a report, so I won't read it word for word. I'll just kind of pull out the highlights for you all. So yeah, introduction. As I just said, AYP is now 3 years old. We're thrilled with how the service has developed over these last 3 years, and how it's evolved. Our youth clubs have gone from strength to strength, and we've introduced vital services such as the mentoring project and the detached youth work service as well. So the report as a whole takes a look at the aims of the service and highlights individual projects that we're responsible for, detailing objectives, key data and outcomes. So I've tried to kind of pick the most important information on all the report on all the projects that we run. Obviously this year is very different to the last two because we've had a pandemic in the middle of it that we've had to adapt to, just like everybody else. Our service completely stopped in March 2020, like the whole world really, and we created an online service that was developed as a response to the outbreak. And there's some information at the end of the report on what we did. And then I just wanted to sort of thank the town council really for their funding and support, because the town council funds the majority of our projects, and my role. So without the funding and the support, it just wouldn't exist. So yeah, thank you for joining us on this journey. So the first part of the report, I just wanted to kind of highlight our aims that we've kind of been working on over the last year to kind of hone in 3 specific aims that really capture what AYP is all about. So the first one is supporting vulnerable young people. As you know, many of the young people that we work with are vulnerable. They start AYP sessions trying to cope with the impact of poverty, abuse, dysfunctional family situations, educational challenges, and mental health conditions and issues as well. Then our sessions are designed around working to support them and tackling these issues and supporting them to and sort of signposting onto other services as well. Aim number 2 is about releasing young people's potential. Every young person has a huge amount of potential. Sometimes issues in their lives can get in the way of this. So AYP really exists to kind of to release that potential, as I've said. And for instance, the Young Leader programme that we run is a major impact of this, which I'll go on to talk about in more detail in a bit. And then aim 3 is creative positive change, creating positive change in the lives of the individual young people we work with. Coming to our service can sometimes be the catalyst for this positive change, and leading to a change in the communities as well. Just a little bit about the team. We've got a team of very skilled youth workers and volunteers. We currently have 16 staff as part of the whole AYP service, and 10 volunteers, including young leaders. And as I've said, all have appropriate skills and training for the role. A lot of the staff, the majority of the staff live in Littlehampton and surrounding areas, so they've got great knowledge, well-formed existing relationships with young people that have been maintained over many years, and you know, something that I'm really proud of the team. Proud of how they helped me develop the service, and I'm proud of how they've been really flexible in adapting to this new way of working, which has been really helpful for me to get that off the ground. And then a little bit about the developed service here. It's sort of an illustration really of the service. So the triangle here starts at tier 1. Tier 1 is the universal social activities, which is our youth clubs, 6 youth clubs a week, that including the Rustington session. We move on to tier 2, which is our focus project, and you've got the Young Leader Academy, the Young Leader training, the soccer school, the detached youth work service, and the Code Club. And then tier 3 is our targeted sports, which is the one-to-one mentoring and our bursaries. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the individual projects. Obviously, the youth clubs is our main centerpiece of our service. And yeah, the data that I've got here is from September 2019 to March 2020, which was pre-COVID. And yeah, like I said, it's the centerpiece of AYP. We provide a warm, safe, friendly space for young people, a place where they can develop new skills such as leadership, communication, teamwork, trying out new things such as cooking, sports and crafts, and a place where they are seen and judged differently from school and at home. But also it's a place where they can come and hang out with their friends, play pool, and just sort of enjoy a free space where parents aren't around. And yeah, they can just hang out as such. Highlights of the year included the Air Arena trip at Christmas, and we did a silent disco at Southfields Jubilee Centre with over 40 young people in attendance. We'd never done a silent disco before. We wasn't sure how it was going to work, but really great event that we were hoping to be an annual event. COVID's got in the way of that, and now we'll have to see what happens next year. But yeah, some good highlights there, and there would have been more highlights, unfortunately, because of COVID. Everything slowed down, and the events have stopped. So the objectives of the youth club is to reduce the risk of involvement in unsafe activities, including drug and alcohol abuse, increase competency, self-esteem, skills and knowledge, provide advice and guidance, enhance individual development, increase status and stature within the local community, increase self-discipline, time management, lots of objectives for our youth clubs. And the key data here, which again is September 2019 to March 2020, the number of sessions we delivered was 107. Face-to-face youth work was 214 hours. The number of attendance we had was 1,942, with 168 different young people, which averaged out to about 70 different young people per month. And the service, the youth club sessions have resumed this month, but the data is not included in this report. We engage with young people 8 to 19 years old from across Littlehampton. And then I've just provided some data here in terms of pie charts. You can see that the biggest age group we currently work with are 12 to 14-year-olds. We tend to engage more male young people than females in our face-to-face work we do with young people, with a 65 to 35 split. Ward breakdowns. All of these statistics are sort of similar to the last 2 years, really. Wickbourne, the Wickbourne ward engages the most, and then the River ward being second. Again, that's a sort of trend that we see month to month, so it's no big surprise. And then I've listed all the outcomes here. I mean, there's probably a lot more, but the ones we sort of picked out were place to meet, socialise, play together, whatever their background. Young people learn to cook for themselves, increase awareness of healthy lifestyles. Lots of other things. Attendance is high, engagement is consistent, young people are punctual. That's a short-term goal outcome. Other medium outcomes include young people applying for jobs, applying for college, and because of their involvement in AYP, it leads to involvement in other community projects and volunteering. Friendship develops with other members of the group, and developing friendships within the community, and less involvement around social behaviour. And then long-term outcomes, increased chance of employment, increased uptake of further education and other education. Young people take on civic responsibilities, which we've seen, improve relationships with peers, long-term friendships. So lots of positives coming out of our youth clubs, and a quote there from a young person saying, AYP youth clubs are my second home. So yeah, move on to the Young Leader programme. We had an uptake of a few more young people this year that wanted to be young leaders, which was fantastic. Our biggest significant development was that we were able to provide a weekly training session with our young leaders on a Tuesday at the Whitbourne Centre for an hour and a half to focus on skills and knowledge that are needed to become a successful leader, and then we were providing the volunteer opportunities for them to put those into practice. Of our current cohort of young leaders, 80% of them have parents who are unemployed, 60% are from single parent homes, and 40% are NEET or at risk of being NEET, which means not in education or training. And all of our young leaders currently live in social housing in the 2 most deprived wards in the local area. Objectives, again, to gain knowledge, skills and confidence to become an effective role model, to work directly with young people and build positive professional relationships with them, which we've seen year after year, to be involved in planning, delivery and evaluation of the programme, to facilitate their own youth work activities, to challenge inappropriate oppressive behaviour such as bullying, racism and sexism. So essentially they are doing the work of the youth worker, but supervised and have training alongside that. Obviously, because of COVID, the training sessions have stopped, but it is something that we're keen to get back up and running again as soon as possible. Just an overview of the whole project, really. So all the young leaders together have done over 2,000 voluntary hours since September 2017, which was when we first started. This year, last 12 months, we've seen nearly 700 voluntary hours. We've currently got 10 young leaders in the programme. Importantly, 2 have graduated the programme. 1 young leader is now employed at AYP and working full-time at a local supermarket. And one of the young leaders started an internship with us just before COVID, a week before we had the lockdown. So that's currently on hold. She's currently looking for a full-time job. Yeah, so that's the young leader programme. Move on to the detached youth work. Now, this is a service that was set up last year. It's only been running a year, since July, and it targets vulnerable young people, and we engage with young people in their territory, working alongside young people in the places and the times that are appropriate to them on their terms. So wherever they are in the town centre, at Southfields, Rosemead, Westway, all sorts of different hotspots that we engage them. So we have 2 teams at the moment of youth workers that will go out for 2 hours in identified locations in the Arran East area, mostly Littlehampton, but Angmering as well. The objectives are to provide high quality support and advice, to help reduce harm caused by serious violence, to provide a detached service for young people for 50 weeks of the year, which we've been doing, to connect with vulnerable, hard to reach young people and gather intelligence on some of the issues that are happening. So from July 2019 to July 2020, we delivered 74 sessions, which was 148 hours of delivery. 43 sessions were in Littlehampton, 31 sessions were East Preston and Angmering. We recorded 485 engagements in Littlehampton and 296 engagements in Angmering. The outcomes are a reduction in child criminal exploitation, antisocial behaviour, a reduction in antisocial behaviour, and public confidence, including contacting with hard to reach young people, building rapport and relationships, encouraging hard to reach young people to engage in AYP youth clubs, essentially getting young people off the streets and into a safe space, which we've done this year, an increased presence and awareness of our service with local community and organisations, which I believe we've done, and improved relationships with services such as childcare, child social care, Arran District Council and the police, and intelligence gathering, signposting to other services. So yeah, that's the detached youth work service. We're going to continue that. We've got some funding left over from the Early Intervention Youth Fund that we've been able to carry over to this next year. So we're still providing 2 sessions a week at the moment. I'm going to move on to the mentoring now. So the mentoring was set up last year.
Sorry, just as you continue, could you just mainly stick to the highlights of it? Because at the moment, we've all had the briefing, which I'm sure everyone's read. You're doing a wonderful job with it, but it's the real highlights we'd really like to know about.
Oh, yeah. So that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the mentoring, I'll just talk about the key data and outcomes. We've had 8 young people that have been mentored by AYP staff, 110 hours of delivery. 6 mentees have recorded improved behaviour and attendance at school. 1 mentee started a voluntary placement at a local hair salon, gaining vital work experience and feeling of improved stature in the community. And the project is currently on hold because of the pandemic. We can't get into TLA at the moment because, understandably, they're not allowing outside agencies in. So we're going to think about how we can move the mentoring into the community. A quote here was a young person said that the mentoring helped put so many things into perspective. Sometimes the smallest steps in the right direction are the biggest steps that make you that you make in life, and that is exactly how AYP has helped her. I mentored a young person that said I helped her see the positive things and helped when she was at her lowest, and she thanked us for the mentoring scheme. Soccer school. What I've done is an overview of the whole project here because I think it captures the good work that we've done. So May to 2018, July 2020, we did 75 hours of delivery, 47 sessions, nearly 1,000 attendances with 52 young people. 31 young people completed more than 1 term. 15 young people moved on to start attending our junior youth club. 2 attendees are now young leaders. And 10 attendees have moved on to participate in local football teams, continuing to develop sporting habit for life. So really, really happy with the progress of Soccer School. Bursary, we'll move on to the bursary. We've got 2 bursaries. Last year saw £1,000 of the bursaries utilised on various different things. However, the bursary hasn't been used much over the last year, and this is something that we know we need to work on and push for the next year. So it's a priority of 2021 to promote the bursary in the local community and increase awareness of funds, because it's a great service to be able to provide young people with money that they need to be able to pursue hobbies. And so yeah, it's something that we'll be pushing over the next year to increase the applications. Code Club is it's run by a team of volunteers at the Keystone Centre. 14 sessions delivered. Average attendance is 5 young people per session, 15 different young people, and as I said, completely run by volunteers. Friday Night Project was something that we ran in partnership with Littlehampton Wave. It started in June, our funding started in June, finished in December 2019. We delivered 20 sessions, 40 hours of face-to-face with 812 total attendances and 40 young people attending on average per week. Really good work with them. They've spoken to me in the last few weeks. They want to continue the project. They want AYP to continue to help them. They just need to get the funding to be able to for us to do that. I'm going to move on to the COVID response. So we set up a complete online service. We used Instagram and Zoom meetings and Kahoot quizzes to continue to engage with our young people. So the key data for those sort of 3 to 4 months is 26 Zoom meetings, 177 attendances on the Zoom meetings, 16 quiz nights, which led to 273 participants for the quizzes, including family members, over 50 individual young people taking part in the Zoom meetings, and thousands of Instagram engagements on post and story features. So yeah, the summary is over the past 12 months, we provided a safe and positive environment for hundreds of young people, and the impact of that can be seen through the sheer numbers of young people we engage with in all our individual projects. And our biggest challenge ever, I think, was to continue supporting our young people through the pandemic, and creating the online service certainly allowed us to do that. And we're looking forward now. We're looking forward we're excited about the next year, and to continue the progress that we've made over the last 3 years. Yeah, so that's it.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you for that, Emma. It's very informative. And sorry to cut you in.
No, it's fine. I didn't know how much to sort of talk about, and it's fine.
I wanted to leave some opportunities for questions, because if not, you will have answered everything in advance.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing on my screen, we do have some questions popping up. I will just say it's a great report. As always, it's been great to see what you are up to with the young people. And obviously, I saw you out and about a few weeks ago as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you was to get in touch with our mayor when things are safe too, he would love to come and spend some time, because I know he's very active trying to go out in the community with different things. But I'm offering that on his behalf. But he is the first one of our people who would like to ask a question. So over to you, Councillor Chase.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank, and I'm sure it's on behalf of all members of the council, like to thank Emma and her team for all their dedicated hard work in the troubled times we're having at the moment. So well done, and thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chase. Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Emma, for keeping it going. I keep thinking the further we get into this COVID pandemic, how grateful I am certainly that we have technology to actually be able to offer services in a very different way. And I think the speed with which you adapted to that is absolutely commendable.
Thank you.
Leading on from that, the sort of training that you're giving to your young leaders and so on, does it cover things like safeguarding, cybersecurity, that they can then inform the youngsters that they're working with?
We haven't touched on online safety or cybersecurity or anything like that. We really weren't that far into our training. We kind of focused on communication skills. We've done a bit of safeguarding. A lot of them have had safeguarding training because they've done things like the Kickstart the event and things like that. So in this new world of technology and online support and online Zoom meetings and things like that, it will certainly be something that we bring into the training moving forward.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
That was great questions. Thank you, Councillor Long. Do we have any other questions? No, doesn't appear so. So I'd just like to say thank you, Emma, for... Also, I think Juliet's just about to say something. No? Okay. Which I'd just like to thank Emma for a great presentation. I'm sure on behalf of the committee and as well as all of the councillors, as well as all of the young people you're representing, a huge thank you to yourself and our new projects. You've done a great job, and long way it continues. So thank you.
No, thank you for the continued support and funding and everything. Thank you so much.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye then.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, so we'll move on back onto the original agenda. So we're on to item 7.3, Events Periodic Report, which is pages 49 to 55 of your agendas.
Thank you, Chair. If members are there, starting at page 49, I'll take it that members have had the opportunity to read the report, as it's basically an update on how the summer events programme, such as it was delivered, and particularly setting out, I think, the impact and the reach of the changed format, together with updates on how we plan to mark Remembrance Sunday this year, which will be very different to what it has been in previous years, and also how we plan to look at delivering a Christmas lights virtual switch on. And there's also information there on research that's been undertaken on other suggestions we've received for the programme. Members are asked to note the report, but happy to take any questions if members have any, Chair.
Okay, so before I put it out to questions, first of all, I'd just like to thank everyone involved for the contributions to the virtual events calendar. We did put out an email to all councillors asking for suggestions, certainly for the Christmas lights alternative events, to which, you know, we've had some good suggestions sent through, as well as suggestions from the officers as well. So thanks for that. Do we have any questions from any of the committee present, please? You're all very quiet. No? Okay, in which case I'll go through. So number one is to note the outcome of the virtual town show and family fun day activities. All okay with that? Oh, sorry, ignore me. I'm on the wrong bit. I'm on the summary, not the recommendations. I do apologise. So first recommendation is to approve Saturday the 11th of September 2021 as a provisional date for next year's town show and family fun day. Are we all okay with that?
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Recommendation 2 is to note the virtual Christmas light switch on activities proposal set out in paragraphs 3.3 to 3.1. I think we've got a great selection here. I will just say on this one, there was one that I thought was a shame that we didn't have included, which was a suggestion I sent through myself, which was, if I may just indulge and explain to the committee, the idea was to ask a range of local businesses that do sort of the craft end of things. So places like Piero Coffee and Arts, Jan at the Crafters Corner, a couple of the florists. So picking up on the ones where they're doing things to create a range of virtual events which people could tune into to be taught how to do something, like make a table centerpiece for Christmas. The idea and concept with this was that each one of those businesses produces a pack which people go in and purchase, so they take it home and then they go in and watch the video live. Obviously, we'd have to speak to businesses to see if they were up for this. I know a couple that have certainly shown interest as I've spoken to them. The idea of this actually ticks a lot of boxes because it then increases footfall in the town centre by getting people in to buy those things. It still means people can have that unique session where they can do their whatever the recommended amount of people is in one home at the time. So if you could do a group of 6 people, you might be able to do a group of 6 people doing your own little craft session. But it just gives a different opportunity to promote the town in a different way. Over to the committee. I'm just intrigued to see if anyone would be supportive of that.
Very supportive. Okay.
Would the committee then be happy to note the virtual Christmas light switch on activities as set out in that proposal with that extra item on to be explored to try and deliver that as well?
Agreed.
All okay?
Agreed.
Wonderful. And whilst I have Mr. Mayor here, and I think we have the Deputy Mayor here as well, I was hoping that if we can do it, we could do it so that each session, the person doing the craft teaches it to the Mayor or to the Deputy Mayor or to the Chair of CRC or to a councillor, which helps actually demonstrate how to do the item. So be prepared to be called upon. So thank you. And recommendation 3 is otherwise note the report. So are we all okay with that?
Great.
Thank you, Chair, and we'll incorporate that suggestion for officers to investigate with local businesses. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jules. Okay, switching back to my other screen. On to item 7.4, events programme for 2021-22, which is on pages 56 to 63.
Thank you, Chair. Literally, as you've introduced it, there is a programme of events set out there that members will have had the opportunity to read previously. I should begin by explaining that the programme is largely unchanged, and that really goes back to the question that we had in the public forum, because we've had to ensure that if circumstances allow, we have a programme in place that can be delivered, and the funding and services of contractors that are needed to do that are in place. If not, we'll look to build on how we developed programmes for Armed Forces Day, the Sandcastle competition this year, and the Town Show and Family Fun Day, when we used alternative formats to deliver something that people could engage with online and hopefully enjoy on the days when they weren't able to gather as they would have done. We're asking the committee for their views and to agree the draft programme in principle, and also the events guide that goes with it. But I'll hand it back to you, Chair, and open it up to members for questions.
Thank you. I do have Councillor Walsh, but just before that, I think the officer's done a great job with this. We're not in an easy situation with planning, and to plan any event at the moment, I'm sure all events organisers will be in the same field where we're all going, what do we do? I have got one personal concern, which I have spoken to the officers about earlier, which is regarding the recommendation to approve production of the events. Is that one? Sorry, it's the events for next year. So what I was going to suggest, if I may just read out the wording that I've composed. So in relation to item 7.4, I will be suggesting the following wording to be attached. The committee welcomed the events guide in its existing format for 2021. However, instruct officers to use this to formulate a three-tiered plan so that we are prepared to be able to deliver the best possible event depending upon the latest legislation. This is to include, so tier 1 being able to deliver a traditional programme of events. Tier 2, produce a socially distanced option of live events which can be adapted to meet the specific legislation at that time, seeking suggestions from councillors now to be able to be considered for this to be delivered. And tier 3 is a virtual option for delivery of events. This should be required, sorry, should this be required due to lockdown measures being in place? I hope that made sense. So the idea is, as I see it, is on the agenda, we have option 1 and option 3 already in place, which is the normal or the virtual. I'm seeking the committee's support in having a second bit put in the middle so that we've just got something there so that all councillors have got the opportunity to send through ideas and suggestions, such as if it was screen on the green, rather than having it as a traditional screen on the green or a virtual, it might be that we look to the academy where we can actually have a drive-in screen on the green, if they were in agreement. So it's just looking at that different option. So I'll open that bit up first, but I'll take the questions that I've got on the screen. So Councillor Walsh.
Thank you very much, Billy. Thank you very much, Chairman. I thought Derek Chester's question in public question time was a well-timed one, because it is something that should be and is exercising a lot of us. And you've done far more. I was going to ask a question if we can expand our preparedness for continuing COVID situation, and your amendment does just that. So I think I don't really need to say much more, except to say that I think we do need to be prepared, because all the evidence, sadly, is that this COVID thing is going to go on for longer than, well, it's already gone on for longer than we expected at the beginning, and it's certainly likely, in my view, to go until May or June next year. And who knows, it may sadly be longer. So I think we have to plan. And there is a lot of really good experience from around the country with small councils, bigger councils, and other organisations doing all sorts of virtual things. So rather than always us trying to invent the wheel or reinvent the wheel, let's not be ashamed to beg, borrow, steal good ideas from outside, good ideas from within our own community and good ideas from council as well, because we are actually having to adapt and find new ways of doing everything very quickly. And therefore, as I say, let's not be ashamed of anything that we actually beg, borrow or steal. So thank you for the amendment. I will happily support that.
Thank you, James. And I'll change from beg, borrow and steal to a term I prefer, which is showing flattery, because to copy one is to show flattery to someone. So thank you for that.
I like that. That's good.
Councillor Malloy.
Hello. Firstly, I really agree with what you just said, Billy. I think that's a really good idea about having the different tiers in place for different ways that we can approach things. I was just wondering, with the events guide that we print, are we going to be putting on there that certain events, if we were in certain lockdown measures, can be online, so it's already advertised in that, instead of people getting that and thinking, oh, that's not going to be on now? Because I know a lot of people that just pop them on their fridge, and if they can see the different options of it being on there, like the sandcastle competition can be online, then they've got it and can still be involved.
Thank you, Councillor Malloy, and I think a very good question. If I may suggest, we had the editorial board of the Progress magazine last week, to which we said that we was going to put on there almost a disclaimer saying to please check the website for the latest update. So I think any type of guide at the moment, I'd certainly be looking to see that included. I think that would be a great way to actually overcome what you're suggesting, Michelle, and I think that's a great point. So thank you for that. So can we note that one, please, Jules?
That's noted, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, and thank you for that. Do we have anybody else? No? In which case, the recommendations are oh, I've lost my screen. There we go. The recommendations. Sorry, I'm on about 3 different screens, believe it or not. I'm going all very technical tonight. So we've got the recommendations before you. So recommendation 1 is comment on and and agree in principle the draft programme of events and initiatives as set out in paragraph 3.4 onwards for consideration as part of the 2021-22 budget discussions. With the amendments that I've attached. Is everyone happy with that? If not, please speak now or forever hold your peace.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We'll
Thank you
take
so much,
that
everyone.
forward, Chair, just so that members are clear. That does enable us to proceed with the budget discussions, and this research will have to come back in the December meeting. But just so that I'm clear, the principle of the draft programme, members are content with that, and we build on it to develop the points that you've mentioned.
Yes.
Thank you.
I would just like to take the opportunity, because I will say, discussing it with officers earlier, the second tier is not going to be an easy one for officers to build on, and I do appreciate that, and I think all of us will. We're not in an easy time, so it is about kind of coming back to the council with an option that's kind of sketched out. So it won't be, the perfect full-on plan, because I don't think we can get there, but it's to explore. So thank you ever so much for that. So recommendation 2 is approved production of the events guide in the existing format for 2021.
Yeah, and that's with the
amendment.
Search into the disclaimer as discussed earlier, Chair.
Sorry, I've just noticed Councillor Long has asked a question. Councillor Long.
Just waiting to go live. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it was really just to, yes, agree with your suggestions, but our starting point should always be best case scenario, i.e. that normality will be back. In terms of the second tier, we've got experience that we've used in the current year to build on, where we've already actually run some of these events virtually, and to get better input from people to advertise it earlier, so that they know what's coming, and oh, we did that last year and it worked really well. And then obviously the worst case scenario that we're having to do everything virtually, but it's not as though we're, in terms of 2 and 3, we're not starting from scratch. But yes, we can certainly get ideas from our neighbours and wider if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and very well put. You're quite right on that, so thank you. I've lost where I was now, sorry.
We're into the last recommendation, Chair, which is to otherwise note the contents of the report, if members are happy with that.
So is everyone happy to note the reports? I'll take that as a yes, so thank you ever so much.
Agreed.
So moving on to 7.5, Community Resources Periodic Report, pages 64 to 67. Yes, I'm there. Okay, so I'll hand you over to Jules.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is a summary of the services updates as they relate to the remit of this committee, and that's namely allotments, grants, tree works and progress with the projects at both Rosemead Park and the new youth centre in Wick. Before we just go into the report, I'd like to bring to members' attention some very positive feedback we've had from one of our HAS grants recipients who have recently had difficulties getting back up and running with the changes in the social distancing arrangements, but have achieved that and been able to deliver their programme of events. And this was also using Southfield's Jubilee Centre, which was closed at lockdown for obvious reasons. And we have gradually been able to bring back into use with the support of some regular of our hirers, and also help other people to date. And the comment was just to say a big thank you to everyone at the Town Council for the help in making it possible for them to hold the dance classes. They wish we could see how happy it made everybody that attended them, and the lady says that in her teaching career she's never had so many non-stop smiley faces. Everyone was very grateful. Just wanted to bring that to members' attention.
That's great, thank you for that, Jules.
Moving on to the report, members will have read there are 3 substantive recommendations there, which focus on specific items in the report. If you're happy for me to proceed with those as listed and look at Rosemead Park first, Chair.
Yep, certainly.
And we're all set for a start date there on the 2nd of November, but following on from previous discussions, we were asked to revisit the sensory path and seek details of what could be achieved within the current project, or if not, at a later date. Emily's sharing her screen there. Basically, within the report, you'll see that the contractor has come up with the suggestions for the specification of a sensory path, and what members have got there is a couple of pictures really that show the designs and try to give a feel, if you like, for some elements of the path and how it might look. So these are to the side of it as well. There is also a picture of an existing installation, elements of which will be featured in our pathway in terms of the shape. But what you will have and what is proposed is a 5-metre pathway. Emily, are you still okay to keep the screen up so that members can see it for me, please? Yeah, okay, so the sorts of things that will be included is some bobble top red paving, corrugated coloured concrete, cobbles set into concrete, coloured wet pour rubber with indulations, and block paving and crazy paving. So that is the specification that we're looking at. And there is also a picture, Emily, if you can show the one that's got the map of the proposed positioning of the pathway. Because what we are hoping to achieve is a pathway that runs alongside the part of the play area that's going to incorporate some of the sensory equipment, so that it's all there, and that's the red arrows that are indicated on the screen there for members. So that's the proposal there, and the associated costs. So if it went in at the current stage of the works, it would be just under £3,000. And if it waited till a later date, because obviously contractors would need to return to the site and set up again, it would be higher at just under £4,000. And the funding would be taken from the capital receipts reserve, which still has a small amount in it that could be used for this particular aspect of the project. Hand over to members for comments, Chair.
Thank you, Juliet. If we could keep the screen up, if that's all right with members, because then it's just easier to refer back to.
Yeah.
I first have Councillor Walsh wishing to speak.
Thanks very much, Billy. Thanks, Chairman. Well, this was universally agreed by all members when we were consulted on the design of it. So I strongly support including it and putting it in as the work progresses, because it's a better value that way. The cost, it seems extremely reasonable to me, and if we can meet it from that capital receipts reserve budget, that's fine. And this will satisfy all members' concerns and be a very welcome addition for those members of the community with the sensory deprivations, etc. That would be great.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Next we have Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I would support this very strongly. It wouldn't just be useful for those with some difficulties. I think any toddler learning to walk would actually benefit from walking along a textured stretch such as this, as well as having all the other equipment around. I think it's actually going to get far greater use than we might originally have anticipated. So I can only express my support that strongly. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Long. Next we have Councillor Chase.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm very pleased that this has come back. I think it's a marvellous piece of work. It is actually the finishing touches to this wonderful refurbishment we're doing to Rosemead Park, and I'd like to thank the officers for their time and efforts in getting this back in, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for Councillor Chase. And next we have Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I think I was probably the most vociferous about wanting a sensory path, and I'm very pleased that all my other councillors are supporting this. I think it's a great addition to the Rosemead Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Do we have any other speakers? No. Well, I'd just like to actually chuck in my personal thanks to the committee as well as the officers on this. As you know, I've had a little bit of a temporary leave from this committee due to personal issues, and to come back and to be seeing this being delivered, it is wonderful to see. So thank you for that, and thank you for the developers, obviously, as well. So in which case, I think it's a foregone conclusion. But is everyone in support?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed. Wonderful. Thank you ever so much, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. If we can move on with the report, if that's okay. I'll take it that members have noted the other main comments in the report and return back to the recommendations, where members are specifically asked to consider a request from the Bonfire Society.
If I could just chuck in a personal interest on this item as a member of the Bonfire Society and also as a town council's, I can't think of what my title is on that, Jules. Can you help me out? Representative on the outside body. Thank you for that, Jules. My brain went completely dead for a moment. Thank you for that.
That's noted, Chair. Thank you. In essence, there won't be a display this year, and that's due to the current restrictions on public gatherings. And the Bonfire Society sadly announced that earlier in the summer, back in July. They obviously still continue and are hoping that next year it'll be different and they will be able to have the display and the bonfire as they normally would. But as things stand, they do have some equipment that they'd like to replace. The display not going ahead this year, they haven't claimed on their service funding payment, which is specifically to hold that event. And they need some equipment and are seeking £300 from the town council, specifically because there is no event this year, and also like other community groups, they simply don't have the forum or the ability to raise funds in the normal way. So they are continuing to do as much as they can in that respect, and this additional support would help them replace equipment to continue to do that.
Okay, is that it, Jules?
That's it, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Julia. So I have a question from Councillor Walsh.
It's not a question, Chairman, it's just actually strongly support this. It's a very small investment, in my view, to help them to continue raising money to keep themselves going and hopefully plan for a bigger and better when they are next able to put it on. So, yeah, and I'm happy to support the delegation as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Next I have Councillor Malloy.
Hello, mine is just to say that I strongly support this. I think everyone in the town loves the bonfire night and procession that they do and stuff like that. And if we can support them through this rough time with small amounts of money like that, I think we're going to be seeing so much more support from our community coming to these events when they're eventually allowed them again, because they realise how much they mean to them.
I've been very well said, Councillor Malloy. I know certainly I, for one, have been missing the events this year. It seems very strange, and was only talking just before the meeting saying it's amazing how many people you miss bumping into and seeing. It's the social aspect of it all as well. So yes, hopefully it will be back. Do we have anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? No. In which case, can I ask, is the committee in support of this?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, I'll take that general sense that we are in agreement. So that's passed. So thank you for that. Back to you, Juliet.
And just the fourth main recommendation to note, it's a broad update for members in terms of tree survey and future works, but that's more based on maintenance, and updating the tree survey allows us to do that and plan for the future there. That's one element of it. The second aspect is just to for members to note, as part of that survey, obviously we will get the Leylandii at Rosemead Park assessed, and the reports says that we do need specialist advice on that, but that's twofold really. Whilst we believe the condition of those trees, particularly over the last 18 months, has deteriorated significantly, there is a need to get that confirmed, because it does affect the tree preservation orders that are on them and whether or not we need planning consent. but also to get some advice and guidance really on what to put in their place, and that's from a professional arboriculturalist view, so that we can be better informed when it comes to members looking at that for making a decision on replacements. So really that's to note where we're at, and hopefully we'll be in a position to bring back some information about Rosemead Park trees to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Do we have any questions on that? It wouldn't appear so, in which case I think Jules is looking very relieved that there are no more questions on that. So is everyone happy to note that?
Agreed.
Yep. Agreed.
Fantastic. Well, thank you ever so much.
Thanks.
So then moving on to item 7.6, strategic review of Arran District Council's tourism, pages 68 to 114. I'll submit my thingy as a member of Arran District Council. My interest, that's the word I'm looking for. I know Councillor Walsh has already noted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. They are both noted. Again, this isn't really my area of expertise, but we felt it was important that this committee in particular had the opportunity to be brought up to date in terms of the district council's work on reviewing their tourism service, and in particular some work that they've commissioned from a consultancy to look at how they support tourism in the future. There's also broad details of the discussion that took place at the District Council when they received this report. It's quite extensive. We have provided members with paper copies as well, and our agenda is updated, really only asking for the committee to note that they've received that and bear it in mind for future, Chair.
Thank you, Juliet. So I will just check if there are any questions. I don't think there's any looking like it. No one's popped up on my screen. In which case, we'll just to note that.
Thank you.
Future. So thank you.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I'm just hearing a few agreed, so we're happy to take that one then. Okay, thank you. And in which case, that brings us on to item 8, which is exempt business, of which there is none. And so this meeting is now finished at 19:42, and I'd like to thank all the staff for their support throughout the meeting, and to the members and the public for their patience, particularly with it being the first meeting which I've chaired since this pandemic began, and we've had to be doing the meetings in this manner. So thank you once again. I hope you've all enjoyed watching, who've been tuning in from home. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good night.
Well done, Chairman. You look